All right, Hunter, we are back. It's been about a week. I think it was last Friday, the last time we hopped on here and talked Husky football and college basketball. Husky football, the show goes on. National championship on Monday. How are you feeling?
Feeling really good about it. Just another game where we're an underdog and went out and showed who the better team was. Michael Penix made that statement that he should have won the Heisman Trophy. I've always thought Heisman Trophy voting should be coming after bowl season. Could be a good incentive to keep guys in bowl games, like we saw Jaden Daniels opt out, and then also give guys the opportunity that, when you take your team to the playoff, that should really count for something. And just disappointing, like it really shows that the East Coast and Southern voters just weren't watching the games, because I saw someone talk about it was kind of like when Christian McCaffrey went crazy in the Rose Bowl and everyone was like, oh my God, this guy's a really good running back. Like, I feel like a lot of people for the first time saw Penix and were like, oh my God, this guy's a really good quarterback. And people that have been watching are like, yeah, he's been doing that all year.
Yeah, and I think the funny thing that I saw, and apologies, also slightly under the weather here, road tripped over from New Orleans. I'll be ready to go for game day, but I think it was pretty clear to us as people who watch every Washington game that for the middle part of the season that something was amiss with Penix after the Oregon game. I think he took a couple shots to the ribs because there was just a handful of games where the passing just wasn't as accurate and elite as it has been since he's seemingly healed up. I think it really started, honestly, not even in the Apple Cup. I don't think he was that great. I think it really was the Pac-12 championship. And then obviously last week he came into form, but started to see people saying, oh, he actually must have been hurt during the middle of the season, which was something Washington fans were trying to say the whole time. It appears that's also been a talking point that's finally being picked up nationally as well.
Yeah, I mean, they kept under wraps that Roma didn't say had a punctured lung, so I would imagine they kept under wraps whatever was going on with Penix. Not sure what it was, but it did seem like in that later stretch of the season, like the padding that he was wearing just seemed to get bigger and bigger, and he wasn't really stepping into his throws, sailing some of them. So it seems like something was up, but he looks great. He looks healthy, ready to rock. And yeah, it's going to be a huge test against Michigan. He's going to get hit. He hasn't really gotten hit at all this year, so we'll see how he responds.
Yeah, I had the luck, I guess, or privilege of sitting at field level for that game against Texas. And sitting at field level is crazy because it makes you realize that, like, how does anything ever work on the football field? The speed, you can't see anything that's going on. Like, so many of those throws, he just takes 1-2 steps, lobs it up. You no idea where it's going, and then boom, just right on the money. I think that long pass to Odunze in the first half, I think it was about 60 yards down the middle, about the craziest thing I've ever seen. And then even that touchdown pass, both the one to Polk and McMillan, those were both in front of me as well. Just the speed on those passes looks like it's intercepted the second he throws it, zips it right on through for touchdowns in both of those cases. And yeah, an amazing fairy tale season for us as Washington fans. I think before the season, again, nationally, I don't think we get the credibility or people watch as much Washington football, obviously, as we do. And last season, we were really one game away from being in the playoff last year, lost at Arizona State, a game that we should win that one 99% of the time. We struggled against them again this year. There's always something about Washington playing Arizona State. But went into the season, once it was announced that everybody was coming back, saying, like, this team has some real potential, but to be sitting here at 14-0 playing for a national championship is so far beyond, at least for me, my wildest expectations. And I know you'll be down here as well for the game. But any thoughts? I know you're always tuned into the media and what the storylines are for the game, but what are some of the keys that you're hearing?
Over and over again, it's just, can UW stop the Michigan run game? Can UW stop the Michigan run game? Because we know what Michigan wants to do on offense. They just want to run downhill at you. They want to wear you down, and then they can get J.J. McCarthy on the edge, get him some layered passing on rollouts. But yeah, it's going to come down to if UW can stop the run and force the game into J.J. McCarthy's hands. I think that's their best bet, is if they can make him a drop back passer. If they can keep him in the pocket and make Michigan beat UW with his arm, that's not really something that he's been asked to do a ton this year. So yeah, it's gonna take a great scheme from the UW defensive coordinator Chuck Morrell, William Inge, and then it's just gonna take great individual plays. And I think a big thing about this Husky defense is it's not the best defense by any stretch of the imagination. It was definitely not the best defense in the playoff, but there's a propensity to make big time plays at big time moments. Whether it's like, it seems like you can run for 8 yards on UW every single time, but the one time you drop back, you get sacked, and all of a sudden you're in 2nd and 18, and then it throws you off your script. I don't know. It seems like we draw a lot of holding calls as well. I think we have a really good pass rush. So Yeah, if we can stop Michigan's run game, put it on J.J. McCarthy, that's going to be the key. And then on the other side, it's just going to be keeping Penix clean. Dylan Johnson injuries really, if he's out, that's a huge blow because we lost Cam Davis, our number 1 to start the year. So we'll be on freshman Tybo Rogers. So have to monitor DJ's health.
Yeah, I had a quick chat with DJ after the game since I was down there at field level. He told me he's going to be good to go, so it sounds like he will be good to go. He's been battling that foot injury seemingly for the last few weeks, but we will definitely need him, not just for the running game, but in the pass protection as well. He's one of the best pass blocking running backs in the country as far as I am concerned watching. I don't know what the stats back that up or not, but yeah, he picks up the pressure. And yeah, I think it's a very similar storyline to the Texas game for me. It's I think the Texas defense, the size of the D-line, seeing it in person, the size of the D-line was double the size of our offensive line seemingly. But what I like about this, I think the lack of respect the Washington offensive line gets is because of their size. They're not the most intimidating bunch. But when you watch so many of those plays and you see the replays of Penix passes, it's the strategy, it's the movement around. They've got guys moving all over the place from schematics on the blocking side of things. So I think we should be fine there. But yeah, another one I said it was a coin flip game for me against Texas. I think this is the same one. I think the storyline of Washington stopping the run is more legit in this game than maybe some of the storylines earlier in the year in different games where it's been like, can Washington do this? Can Washington do that? I think the stopping of the run game is a legitimate concern for me, at least going into this one.
Yeah, and especially just watching how UW performed against Oregon. Oregon ran it down our throats at that game in Seattle, but again, stepped up at the biggest moments on the 4th downs, forcing the turnovers. So UW's going to give up yards on the ground. It's just going to be, can they be opportunistic? And if they can get that ball on the ground, can they recover a fumble? Maybe a sack fumble in McCarthy. I don't really see us picking him off. First off, he throws laser beams that like it's his guy or no guy. But yeah, UW's going to need to create turnovers and then create explosive on offense.
Yeah, and I think the whole thing for me, a lot of these games where UW's been underdogs and just the team in general, it's that the Washington coaching staff is to me a top 3, top 5 coaching staff in the country, but obviously Harbaugh has that as well. So this is obviously, it's the national championship. They're the number 1 team in the country. There's been no tougher test for the Dogs than this will be, but it's almost, I think just getting to this point, like you don't want to be like, oh, moral victories. Like if we lose, it's still been a great season. But at the end of the day, we're playing, this is the cherry on top of what's been the most unbelievable season. I think that at least in my lifetime, and who knows if we'll ever have this again. So for me, I go into this game optimistic, but win or lose, it's been an absolutely glorious season. Getting to be there for the Sugar Bowl, for me as well, just makes it getting to have that moment. So win or lose, this is as good as it gets. Washington doesn't play for national championships. I saw the map of all the college football champions. It's like all SEC and then Ohio State. And they're like, we're going to either update this map with Michigan or Washington. Like Washington being on that map with those teams would just be so far beyond the realm of anything I could ever possibly have thought of, that just being here for me. And obviously it's cool too, all your friends coming down for the game, and we'll have this experience that will last a lifetime. So looking forward to it.
For sure.
With that, we are back on the college basketball landscape. It's been a week for me since I've placed any college basketball bets. Last time we talked was last Friday. We had the Gonzaga, UW, and Marquette bets. Another profitable weekend for us there to move to 42-22 on the year for the best bets. So we are cruising along. But conference play has begun. We've got a different beast now. We've got a lot more games to choose from on a weekly basis. So I think for me, it's being cautious, not biting off more than we can chew. I think we've bet about 3 to 5 games every time that we talk, but now it's going to be 10, 15 different options. So we're going to have to be strategic in where we decide to recommend some bets. But tonight we do have a top 10 matchup in the VCI. It is Illinois at number 7 without Terrence Shannon Jr., who remains suspended, against Purdue, who is number 2. This game in Mackey, the line -10 on Purdue, +10.5 on Illinois, and over under the 150.5 to 151.5, and that's come down from the 156 range. Purdue heavy favorites here. I think that's deserved without Shannon. Thoughts on this one, Hunter?
These are the 2 top teams in the Big Ten, and it's a great opportunity for Illinois. I don't think anyone's really given them a chance, especially with TSJ suspended. but they've looked the part of a top 10 team, and they get a really great all the pressure is on Purdue here to hold serve at home. It's a really great opportunity for the Illini. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting game. Interesting that the total got bet down, opened at 155, quickly came down to the 150.5 range, has moved back to like 151, 151.5, but got pummeled by the bettors early. So something to keep an eye on there if you're thinking about the over-under is that it was originally the bettors were loving the under or the sharps were.
Yeah, when we first looked at this game earlier today, or I first looked at it, I thought under basketball, but then when I saw how much it's already been bet down, I was like, well, I'm so late to the party here. I probably have to sit that one out. But yeah, Illinois without Terrence Shannon Jr., but they still have our boy who we saw light it up in Madison Square Garden, Marcus Damask. I think he had like 30 points against Northwestern or something like that. They go and take care of business in that one a couple of days ago at home. 30-point win over Northwestern. Obviously, Northwestern beat this Purdue team. If you want to play the common opponent side of things there. But just looking at the stats here, we know what Illinois is. They're the third best effective field goal defense in the country. And I think this has been the story. Most times we talk about Purdue. Can Illinois defend them without fouling? Purdue 29th in the country in free throw attempts, but Illinois 17th in the country at keeping teams off of the free throw line. This is a Purdue team who we know doesn't want to shoot a lot of threes. Obviously, Braden Smith can step up and knock those down, but they want to go inside, play inside-out basketball. And that 2-point defense for Illinois, third best in the country. They are great there on the interior. So I think it's really the same story that we talk about all the time. Can Illinois protect that front line in this game and play defense without fouling?
That's what it's going to come down to. It's can Illinois play defense without fouling? It's what they've done all year, and it's what makes them really good is they can keep those athletic bigs on the floor because they don't foul, and they're really great rim protectors. But, yeah, it's just a different beast when you're playing Edey. It just seems like he puts 2 fouls on every single big man you have by, like, the 8-minute mark. Like, I don't think I've ever seen teams have to deal with playing a guy with 3 fouls more in, like, the first half than Purdue because, like, the starting big gets 2 fouls. The backup big gets 2 fouls. You got to leave the backup out there to protect the starting big. He picks up his third. Like that happened against Marquette with Ben Gold. Yeah, we'll have to see how the whistle is. Hopefully they let him play in Big Ten play. We'll see.
Yeah, and obviously a road test here for Illinois. Mackey, one of the best environments in college basketball, Illinois on the road so far this year. They lost to Tennessee by 7. And they also won on the road at Rutgers rather comfortably. It's a game, obviously, that would be much more enticing if Terrence Shannon was out there. I think, Illinois and Purdue, regardless, Illinois, this team, they've got the weapons to still be one of the top 2-3 teams in the Big Ten. Damask is great. They've got other pieces, and it's their defense ultimately that they hang their hat on. Quincy Guerrier is good for them. And at plus 10.5, the closer I look at this with where this Illinois defense is, even without Shannon, like Shannon's a great defender, but I like the overall way this Illinois team plays defense. I think they've got a chip on their shoulder. So I think I'm actually, now that I take a closer look at things here, I'm going to take that plus 10.5 on Illinois. I think they're obviously just the average bettor is going to look at this, say Shannon's not playing, this is going to be a Purdue runaway. Purdue is not necessarily a team that does a lot of running away. That's not their style of play. I think they play a lot of relatively close games. So I'll take the 10.5 here on Illinois, and I'm going to trust our boy Marcus Damask to have a big night getting in the lane and getting some buckets.
Illinois lived up to it in the biggest moments this year. They have some tough losses, but they've played them really close, and then they have some great wins. So the bright lights definitely don't scare this team. Love Illinois plus 10.5 with you.
And I think I've bet Illinois twice this year. Our colleague Steve went to Illinois, so we're 2-0 on the Illinois train. We'll try to make it 3-0 here in Mackey against the Boilermakers. But yeah, it's that Illinois defense for me. I think that travels. I think that's good with or without Terrence Shannon. I think they know that their best chance of winning basketball against this point is to lock down on the defensive end and try to survive that way. So we'll go there, and we'll hope that Coleman Hawkins can knock down a couple of threes for us. I think that's a piece, too, for Illinois, where if they can get Hawkins matched up on Edey and get him extended and he can knock down a couple of threes, that's probably going to be decisive for us on this 10.5.
That's going to be a huge piece of this game is Coleman Hawkins shooting from the outside. If they can get Edey to step out of the paint, that just opens up so much more for your offense. So Coleman Hawkins definitely going to need to make some threes tonight for Illinois to have a chance.
Moving on to the other marquee game of the night, and calling it marquee might be a little bit excessive. We've got number 6 UConn traveling to Hinkle to play against Butler. Butler coming off an absolute crushing loss there to St. John's. Was not even close against the Johnnies, who shout out Rick Pitino. They're starting to play some better basketball and got themselves back near the bubble. But I thought Butler would probably be more competitive in that game, so I don't love that result for them. It's UConn minus 4.5 here. Butler plus 5.5 and over under in the 143.5 to 144.5 range. And looking at the stats here, if Klingon was playing, I think this is a clear big edge game for Connecticut. They dominate the offensive glass. That's an area where Butler's really weak. They dominate the defensive glass. That's another area where Butler is weak, just overall rebounding. Butler outside the top 200, both offense and defense. Butler gets their shot blocked all the time. They're 316th and getting their shot blocked on the offensive end. They don't get to the free throw line. They don't shoot a lot of threes. They want to go into the paint and score there, and Connecticut's got a top 22-point defense. So all the stats would say UConn here, but all those stats also include the fact that Klingon was there for a lot of games, and he won't be out there tonight.
UConn's really missing him. It's actually been interesting to see when they're forced to go small now, when their big gets in foul trouble, they've actually kind of looked better when they have Caravan at the 5. So it'll be interesting to see if Hurley deploys that strategy against Butler. Butler's looked feisty on the road so far. This is their, I think, first game back in conference, getting a home game. Thad Matta era. They're really looking for a statement win, and they have a great opportunity tonight. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think looking at Butler, they obviously outperformed, I think, probably preseason expectations for Butler, picked down near the bottom of the Big East, and they've started the year. They beat Georgetown at home by 10. That's a game that almost every team in the Big East should be expected to win, a home game against the Hoyas. But they've gone on the road 2 games since then. They lost in overtime to Providence. That one's one that they probably should have won. Decided not to foul up 3, and we were thankful for that as we had the Providence -6 there.
Yep.
And then they lose on the road at St. John. So they come back here in a game that, like you said, they kind of need to take a stand on their home court. I think Connecticut wins this game. I think Connecticut's clearly the better team here, even without Klingon. But we've had no success betting teams on the road in the Big East so far this year. So this is going to be a stay away for me. But I think Connecticut clips them. And I wouldn't be surprised if Connecticut covers this spread. But at least for me, I'm staying away from road games in the Big East for the time being.
With all the games on the table, I think road Big East favorite is got to be dang near at the very bottom for me.
I couldn't agree more with that. And yeah, those are 2 of the games tonight. That is about all that there is worth watching in college today. But tomorrow, at pretty much every conference gets it going. We've got the ACC, we've got the Big 12 season kicking off, and boy, and how exciting is that with the Big 12 finally getting underway. We've been waiting all year for these teams to start getting together, and it will start taking place tomorrow. A myriad of top 100 matchups in the VCI. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. At least 20. There's at least 20 top 100 matchups in the VCI tomorrow. Get to cbb.vincerix.com. Find the best spreads. We've already got numbers out from at least Bet Rivers, DraftKings, and FanDuel for these games. And at the top of the list is North Carolina, who has climbed into the top 10 of the VCI. They are number 9, and they are traveling to Clemson tomorrow at 11. I'm in Central Time Zone, so that'll be a noon Eastern tip. North Carolina underdogs on the road against Clemson, plus 1.5. You can get a -1 on Clemson. The over-under 156.5 to 158, so we're expecting some points here. You had eyes, I think, a little bit on North Carolina against Pitt and Clemson against Miami. I didn't have eyes on those, but thoughts on this one? A Clemson team now who has 2 losses. So the Clemson fans who felt so disrespected when they were undefeated, they can't feel quite so disrespected anymore.
Yeah, 2 teams coming off opposites. North Carolina looked good on the road, taking care of business against Pittsburgh. Looks like they've kind of put to bed a lot of the struggles from last year, and Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan are a big piece of that, just having that settling veteran presence. RJ Davis is playing like an All-American. Pitt did shoot like 3 for 26 from 3, though, and Blake Hinson was absolutely chucking.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the best showing from Pitt, but like you got to credit UNC for that. Anytime you can go on the road, win by double digits, you did something really well. On the opposite side, Clemson went on the road at Miami and got the doors beat off them. So they're coming back. Interesting spot. The computers like Clemson still. I think the eye test likes North Carolina a lot more. Interesting matchup. I think it feels right that it's like -1 pick 'em.
Yeah, just looking at the stats here, North Carolina, they're going to have a myriad of offensive opportunities. This Clemson defense is near dead last in the country in forcing turnovers, while UConn has one of the most efficient or lack of turnovers in the country, ranking number 22, only turning it over on 13% of their possessions, and Clemson only forcing them on 13%. So North Carolina is going to get their looks, and then it's just a matter of converting those. And they also get to the line where they're 18th in the country, 42% of their free throw attempt to field goal attempts, while Clemson outside the top 200 in fouling. So I think UConn or North Carolina should score the basketball without too much problem against this Clemson defense. But then on the other side, this Clemson offense is really good. Top 40 in effective field goal percentage, 3-point shooting, 2-point shooting, free throw shooting, and reasonable on the glass. But that's also an area where North Carolina is really good, is cleaning that glass and getting out and running. Clemson does not get to the line at all, 321st in the country, where North Carolina is 61st. So with the big edge for North Carolina at the free throw line here, that does concern me a little bit when you go on the road here, because who knows what the whistle is going to be like there at the Little John Coliseum in South Carolina. But I think I would lean North Carolina here on the road as an underdog. I think North Carolina is a better team, and I think North Carolina is starting to really come into form. They beat Oklahoma by 12. They beat Pitt on the road by 13. Barely lost that game to North Carolina. We saw them lose to UConn. That game could have been a little bit closer than it probably was. This is a good North Carolina team, and I think I expect them to go on the road and take care of business here.
If you're holding an ACC future ticket, we gave out UNC and Duke as the top two clear favorites. Like this is a game that if you're going to win the ACC, you go on the road and you win this game. If you're UNC, I think UNC really has been putting it together. You know, they had the showing in MSG where UConn kind of bully balled them. But then, turned it around against Oklahoma, went out and got the job done at Pitt, going on the road again. Trust the senior guard, RJ Davis. And Harrison Ingram still looks like an NBA guy. And Baycott's been playing better. So the Heels look ready for this one.
Yeah, and then obviously for Clemson, it's about PJ Hall. Ken Pom has him number 5 in the country right now in the National Player of the Year race. He's been fantastic for them, but I think you've got guys like Cormac Ryan. You've got Ingram, the size and the ability to match up here. I like the guard play for North Carolina. So if you're going to give me plus odds in this one, I will take the Tar Heels plus 1.5 in this road test against Clemson. We will see how North Carolina handles the road test, but I will trust the Tar Heels in this one tomorrow. Next up tomorrow, let's see what we got here. We won't talk about this one. Utah lost to Arizona State. I just saw. I had just put them in my top 30, and they go out and lose to an Arizona State team that's absolutely miserable. I didn't have eyes on that, but that was a surprising result for me.
Bobby Hurley, twice a year, is going to win a home game that he has no business winning, and then twice a year it's going to lose a home game that he has no business losing. And every single year, he just lives on the bubble. I don't think Arizona State this year is good enough to live on the bubble. I don't think they're a tournament team or anywhere near it. But yeah, at this point, nothing that Bobby Hurley does can surprise me at home. On the road, I know what they are. They're a team that takes bad shots and gets frustrated, and he gets teed up. But at home, anything can happen.
And Arizona absolutely boat raced Colorado, absolutely destroyed them, 97-50. Colorado without some of their key players. But Arizona clearly upset after that Stanford performance. They absolutely smashed the Buffaloes. The line here, it's plus 11.5, minus 10.5 on Arizona. We know that Arizona at home just crushes people, so I'd probably expect them to do the same here, but no read for me on this game, and not one that I really think will be that interesting to watch.
I would agree.
That leads us to, let's see what else we got here. This is a good one. Number 14, an Iowa State team who really hasn't beaten anybody, really hasn't played anybody in the non-conference. They lost some of those games down, and I think they played a tournament down in Orlando around Thanksgiving. They travel to Oklahoma. This is the first of what will be almost a daily basis in the Big 12 of top 25 VCI matchups. It's number 14, Iowa State, at number 23, Oklahoma. You can get a plus 3.5 on the Hawkeyes, a minus 2.5 on the Sooners. The Sooners alone lost coming to North Carolina in effectively a road game a few weeks ago. They've been really good at home. Iowa State's numbers look good, but a lot of these Iowa State, just looking at the game log here, they just haven't really played anybody. This is going to be a tough test for the Hawkeyes going on the road to Oklahoma.
Iowa State's look good, but they're just one of those teams where they've played a really soft schedule and they've been blowing the doors out the teams, and that gets rewarded in the net. I think I saw they had one of the softest schedule. Like if you compared their strength of schedule to their net, they were at the very top of playing weak competition, and just kind of with the net, when you blow teams out, it just weights your wins in a different way. And Iowa State was blowing the doors off a bunch of the smaller competition. I like Oklahoma in the spot a lot, like -2.5 at home. If it was at Iowa State, I'd probably like Iowa State -2.5, but I like the Big 12 team in the home opener, and I like what Oklahoma's done this year.
Yeah, and to be fair, Oklahoma hasn't played the strongest schedule either. Just looking at the average win for these teams, Iowa State at number 2 at 250.5 average win in the VCI. Oklahoma's 220.1. Best win for Oklahoma over number 46. The best win for, and I believe that's Providence. The best win for Iowa State, number 64. So neither team has played a ton of top teams. But I do like how Oklahoma is looked in the non-conference. They get home, and it's going to be a battle of this. Iowa State offense that looked pretty efficient. They're top 30 in effective field goal percentage, top 30 in three-point shooting, 36th in two-point shooting. But the Oklahoma defense, 17th in effective field goal percentage, 24th in three-point defense, and 34th in two-point defense. The issue, one thing I would be a little bit concerned about here for Oklahoma is that they're 236th in turnover percentage, and the Iowa State defense, number 1 in the country in forcing turnovers. I mean, they haven't really played anybody, but the fact they're forcing turnovers on 27% of possessions is an astronomical defensive number.
Yeah, when you're not letting your team get the ball even towards the rim 1 out of every 4 possessions, that's really crazy. Even it doesn't matter who you're playing at the collegiate level.
Yeah, that's wild. And also Oklahoma, what they want to do is they want to get in the paint and score on you there. They're 9th in two-point shooting. Iowa State's defense 8th in two-point defense. So there's a couple of, if I just said, purely not looking at the stats, I think I would join you on that Oklahoma -2.5. There's a couple of things that concern me a little bit in this one, and also just not really knowing too much about this Iowa State team based on their schedule. I think it's going to be a stay away for me, but my lean would be with you on the Sooners here at home. I think they end up being the better team in the Big 12, but a little bit concerning because Oklahoma doesn't necessarily have like a true point guard. They've got some solid guys who can ball handle, but I just get a little bit worried about that Iowa State defense getting takeaways and making it tough on them.
Yeah, kind of feels like underball.
It has the feeling of underball. Only one. Oh wow. I guess this is a sign of when the odds come out early. You can get a 143.5 under. The over is 140.5. So we'll see where that settles up. But it does have the feeling of underball for sure. Both teams, they play fast enough. But yeah, they both pride themselves on the defensive end. This will be a slugfest without a doubt, and a good one to watch for sure. But no bet for me on that one. The next Big 12 matchup, TCU. They went 11-2 in the non-conference. They're traveling to Kansas, a Kansas team who somehow, some way, it hasn't been pretty. It hasn't been nice to watch. They're 12-1. They've only suffered that one loss to Marquette in Maui, which isn't a bad loss by any stretch of the imagination. We know this Marquette team's really good. Kansas is -8 here at home at Allen Fieldhouse. TCU +9.5. What's your current status report on the Jayhawks? Started the year number 1. They only have one loss. It hasn't been pretty, but it's all good for Bill Self and company so far.
Only the Kansas Jayhawks could be 12-1 with the top 10 loss, and people would think that they're like, this is not their year. This is where they're falling off. Like, they're 12-1 headed into Big 12 play. They've been taking care of their competition. They should probably still be the favorites in the Big 12, them or Houston. Interesting line, TCU won at Kansas last year in Allen Fieldhouse. If people remember that one, Shahade Wells, our McNeese guy, went off for them, had like a 20 ball. I just don't know enough about this TCU team because they played such a soft schedule. I know that they've got the talent, Avery Anderson, Jameer Nelson Jr. Like, they have the guys in the front court too, but they haven't played anyone. So it's really hard to know who they are. If I had a side, it'd be Kansas -8 in this one.
Yeah, and a quick aside, shout out McNeese for that win over Michigan. Hunter with the money line call. I drove through Lake Charles on my way from New Orleans over to Houston here for the national championship. And as I was driving through Lake Charles, I'm listening to the radio. They go, Coach Wade coming up next, live press conference. They're excited down there in Lake Charles, as they should be. McNeese at large potential. It is alive and well. We're headed now into the Southland Conference play where they should absolutely dominate every team that they play. So exciting times down there at McNeese, and shout out to Shade Wells. We know he has been taking care of the basketball for them. So great call, Hunter, on that one, by the way.
Yep. Go Cowboys.
Just looking at some of the stats here, I would lean Kansas just looking at the line without really looking at the stats. And then you see the numbers, and TCU shoots no 3-pointers. They're 342nd in the country in 3-point attempts. They want to shoot twos, and that's where the Kansas defense is really strong. McCullers, Dickinson, they're top 30 in the country in 2-point defense. They don't foul teams. You're not going to get a call to save your life in Allen Fieldhouse. Good luck on that front. And the only thing that the TCU has going for them is they do force turnovers, and Kansas has turned it over a reasonable amount this year. But Kansas is first in the country. They're assisting on 73% of their baskets, which is just an astronomical assist number. TCU is 229th in allowing assists. So I think Kansas get the ball slinging around here now in Fieldhouse. First Big 12 game of the year for them. They just crushed Wichita State at home by 19. I think, and we've talked about this, when Kansas takes the game seriously, they're really, really good. When they play bad teams and they kind of just half-ass it, they're not so good. But -8 on Kansas here on DraftKings. I'll take Kansas against a TCU team whose best win right now is 109th in the country. I think I hate to say it, but I think we might have some potential fraud alert on this TCU 11-2.
If anything about what you're trying to do includes getting fouls drawn on the Kansas Jayhawks at Allen Fieldhouse, it is not going to go well for you.
So, yeah, give me the Jayhawks -8 here. It might be tied at halftime. They might be down at halftime, but I trust Kansas to put the pedal to the metal and take care of business against a TCU team that I don't think is actually very good. Cincinnati's playing BYU. That's number 41 versus number 4. BYU -10.5. It's officially showtime for BYU. Number 4 in the VCI. They go a 12-1 in non-conference play. Didn't really beat anybody. Their average win's 203.9. Their best win was over number 23. I don't really have a care to watch this game or a feel for it, but it's time to officially keep our eyes on BYU and see if they're frauds or if they're legit.
This is like the flirting versus harassment meme. You have like 12-1 BYU that everyone's in love with, and then you have 12-1 Kansas that like everyone thinks is disgusting. Like everyone loves BYU, but they don't have the wins that Kansas has. So it's time for BYU to show what they can do for sure. I mean, number 4, the computers can only take you so far. And like, of course they get Cincinnati. It's not like they get Kansas or Houston or Baylor to open up. I'm sure they'll beat
BYU. Let's see when BYU's first real test will be. It's coming. It's coming next week at Baylor in the new gym. I saw Baylor's unveiled a new gym.
Yeah.
That'll be next Tuesday. So I would expect BYU to take care of business here. I don't know if they'll win by 10 against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's fine this year, but it's going to get real for BYU shortly. I like this BYU team. I think they're pretty good. That win over San Diego State's looking better and better as the season goes on. Yeah. But they also lost to Utah, who just lost by 20 points to Arizona State. So nobody likes the numbers and the computers more than me, but we're going to need to see it from BYU here in the coming weeks.
Definitely agree.
A tasty one here in the SEC, another conference that I'm excited to get going because the SEC has a lot of good storylines this year for sure. It's number 18, Kentucky, traveling to Florida, number 36 in the VCI. Good matchup here, 10-2 Kentucky, 10-3 Florida. Kentucky, you can get plus odds on both teams right now. Kentucky's plus 1.5 on FanDuel and Florida's plus 1 on DraftKings here. Road test for this Kentucky team. I doubt they've played a true road game yet. I don't think they have. Oh, they did. Well, they played Louisville on the road, but that doesn't count because Louisville is...
That's like pretty much a home game for them too. They take over the Yum Center.
Yeah, that doesn't really do much good. The real only impressive win that Kentucky has is against North Carolina a couple weeks ago in the CBS Classic or whatever it is. Their average win 182. Florida's 196. Florida hasn't really beaten anybody. I think their best win is against Michigan, and Michigan's not very good at all. Michigan might actually be terrible. This is what the SEC is going to be all year. I think a lot of these teams are relatively evenly matched, and we see that with the +1 and the plus 1.5. Thoughts on this one? A Florida team that I like. I think it's got a lot of potential, but Todd Golden, it's coming together, but it might not be together quite yet.
Yeah, this is your rare 6-hair matchup for a fast game from Haslametrics. 2 top 10 teams in pace, I think. Over-under set at 170.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention. Yeah, 169.5 to 170.5.
Yeah, the over is way up there. It's going to be a fun game. Like Walter Clayton Jr. is really fun to watch. Florida has 4 bigs that they rotate through that just all they do is rim run. They're just up and down the floor. Kentucky likes to get out and run as well. It's going to be a really exciting game. Give me the Gators at home. I've like always liked Florida in the swamp. There's just something about the swamp. It's from my SEC sources. Apparently it's just a tough place to go get a win. So give me the Gators in the swamp.
Yeah, I feel like I remember the years of those great Kentucky teams, and it was always a tough battle when they'd go and play these Florida teams. Just looking at the stats here, another one of these where Florida's defense not designed to force turnovers. They're 288th in turnover percentage. Kentucky's fourth. Reed Shepherd takes care of the basketball. He's not going to be turning it over out there against the Gators. The Gators struggling to defend the three-point line. They're 257th, where Kentucky is second in three-point shooting. Now, with that being said, Florida doesn't want you to shoot threes. They run teams off the three-point line, so they're 36th there. So it'll be interesting. I'm sure there's going to be some absolutely horrific shot selection for Kentucky firing up threes against this Florida defense that wants to take it away. Florida's offensive rebounding, that's where they do their best work. They're fifth in the country on the offensive glass. Kentucky 114th. They get to the line 41st in free throw shooting. Kentucky doesn't get to the line at all. That also has to do with the shot selection. They're going to be taking some terrible shots, driving in the lane, not drawing contact. It'll be interesting to watch for sure when Kentucky has the ball against this Florida defense. I like the Gators. I want to like the Gators. When you watch them at times, you're like, this team could be really, really good. I'm going to stay away from this one. I think this Kentucky team is got a lot of potential as well. First road game for them. I'd probably lean Florida, but this Florida team, I'm not sold on quite yet. I really want to like them. I do. So I'm going to sit this one out. Maybe if the line changes, I'll take a stab tomorrow, but this is going to be a wait and see for me on both of these teams. Going to watch them the first couple weeks of SEC play and see how things go.
The Gators change, but the swamp stays the same, man. I'm telling you.
That's fair. That's fair. Like I said, the swamp, that's a real thing. I don't deny that.
Gainesville's got to lead the country in like neck tattoos per capita. Like it is a raucous fan base.
I saw en route from New Orleans to Houston. I drove through LSU. I saw Mike the Tiger. Passionate fan base down there. I talked to Mike the Tiger, got some championship wisdom from him to try to carry the Huskies through. So yeah, I'm getting my first full Southern experience. I drove on the I-10 all the way over, and you take a bridge I'm sure you're familiar with, 24-mile bridge over the swamp. It's beautiful swampland. Last time I drove it, there was about a 12-pound gator that had been blown up by an 18-wheeler. You just get some views. You know, people go water skiing on the swamp water. So if you're built different, you get out there with the gators. You don't mind waiting around for the boat. You can do it. I went on a fun fact for everyone. I went on an alligator tour. The way that you get them is you throw marshmallows. They love marshmallows. So you toss them a marshmallow, they'll come right up to you. Tour guide had half his arm missing. But. You got a little too close with the marshmallow toss and paid the price. But yeah, it's a beautiful country. First time in New Orleans. I thought it was great. You got to be alert down there, both from a safety perspective and also your wallet at the casino. So there's a lot of things that can bite you down there in the swampland in the South. But I was a fan of Louisiana in my travels.
Yeah, it's Southern hospitality, that Creole culture, the French Louisiana bistro.
Heading back up to normally our neck of the woods, the Big East, St. John's against Villanova. Finner and Pavilion. I love when Villanova plays on campus. Much better than when they play at the 76ers arena. We just talked about him. Number 38, the Johnnies, Rick Pitino. He's finding a way, getting this team to play some defense, which I think was when I watched him play against Michigan, there was no defense being played, but I'm sure there's been a serious effort in practice to get the defense figured out from Rick Pitino. They're playing Villanova, number 22 now in the VCI. Villanova goes on the road, I think. No, that was at home that they survived against Xavier, 66-65. They crushed DePaul on the road, but again, that's one that you would expect to win. St. John's coming off that win against Butler. St. John's plus 5.5, Villanova minus 4.5, over under 142.5 to 144.5. Here we go again. Villanova basketball could be great, could be terrible. Thoughts on this matchup?
Like Villanova should be a 10-point favorite over this team when you look at the talent. And like it's a home game and they're 4.5 against St. John's. Like St. John's is, I would expect them to be 4.5 against like Providence, like 4.5 against St. John's. I don't know, but like the thing is, you hate Nova at home and you love them on the road this year. So Maybe it's time. Maybe you just got to take them. Like maybe it's time. It's Big East play. It's 4.5 at home. Maybe it's time.
The stats here, St. John's does not want to shoot the three, and that's been a problem for Villanova is that they surrender. The 42% of their shots come from the three-point line, and that's what's cost them in some of these games is that random teams can just start banging threes against them, and it can turn – there's not much you can do when you're giving up that many threes. St. John's doesn't want to shoot the three. They want to go inside, and that's where Villanova wants you. They're 37th in 2-point defense, but their problem has been they can't force teams into that area of strength for them. I think they'll get St. John's to play inside, where that's where they've got their best defense set up. And then on the offensive side of the ball, St. John's defense is improving. They're 49th in 2-point defense. We know what Villanova wants to do. They want to shoot the three-pointer. They're 7th in the country. They're shooting 49% of their attempts are coming from three-point range. They're slowly improving from three-point range. That was another issue for them, is they were ice cold from three to start the year. They're up to 198th in the country, so trending in the right direction on the three-point shot. But St. John's, that's what they want to take away. They're 57th in three-point attempts. Villanova takes care of the ball. That's usually an area where St. John's can get you from time to time. Rick pulls out the full court trap and forces some steals. I don't think that will befall Villanova here in this one. I don't love it, but I'm gonna ride with the Wildcats once again. I think I believe in this Villanova team. I think they're good. I think that there was some 3-point variance just from their style of play that's made them. That's why they're 10-4 instead of being like 12-2 or 13-1. But to your point, they're more than 4.5 points better than St. John's. St. John's starting to ride high after a couple of good wins, but I still don't think they're that good. So give me Villanova here -4.5.
It's a game you could look back on in a few weeks and be like, wow, I got to bet Villanova -4.5 hosting the Johnnies. Like if Villanova turns it on, like a lot of people expect they can, you're not going to see this line again.
I would agree. Also has the feeling of some underball. This thing could get a little slugfesty there at Finneran Pavilion. I'd like to see the numbers on the over-unders for Villanova between Finneran and when they play at the Sixers arena, because I assume they have the extra 3-point line on the court.
Extra lines at the gym. That's probably their issue is half their home games they're playing with the extra lines out there.
And they want to shoot so many threes, but they're shooting them from an extra 2 feet versus the college basketball average. So yeah, I think you're onto something there. So we get them at home. We like that. Providence is going to play Creighton. Wow. First, a moment of silence for Providence. Tough. Bryce Hopkins out for the year for them. And it's shown up in this line. Take a stab at the Providence Creighton line here. This game in Omaha.
Like 9.5, 10.
Yeah, it's 11. It's 11 with an over under of 137.5 too. So they're really not sure how Providence is going to score.
Yeah, I was going to say, because Creighton can score it, so they're really not sure who Providence is going to go to, which makes sense. Like Devin Carter is probably their best all-around player, but he's not their creator. Like he's not the alpha on the offensive end, which he's now going to be asked to be. They're also going to have to go play through Oduro more in the post. But yeah, that's underball when your best offense is throwing it into your big man and watching him booty some guy down on the block.
Ticket Gaines is my favorite player on Providence. He's if Ticket's going to need to hit like 8 threes for Providence per game for them to have any chance now. Very unfortunate for Providence. They were starting to look good. This Creighton team, the computers still love them. They're number 15 in the VCI. They are 2-4 though against VCI Quad 1, but they've been cleaning up against Quad 2, Quad 3, and Quad 4. They've won all of those games. Creighton should win this one. They should probably win pretty comfortably. It's one of those lines too. It's the -11, that's a big number, but it's kind of like the Arizona Colorado line the other night where Colorado didn't have any of their players and it was -13, and then Arizona won by like 50 points. So I could see Creighton absolutely crushing Providence in this one, but I need to see Providence without Bryce Hopkins before I start partaking in any wagers in games that they're playing in.
Yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see what they do with their rotations, because they weren't the deepest team already, at least scoring-wise.
Here's a tasty one. Undefeated Chris Beards headed down to Mississippi. He's won every game that he's coached for Ole Miss. They're traveling to Knoxville to play Tennessee, and there is no respect being shown to Ole Miss at the moment. +13 on DraftKings for Ole Miss, -10.5 on Bet Rivers. So some disagreements between the books on this Ole Miss versus Tennessee game out of the gates. Ole Miss, their best win is number 43, but people talk like Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. We've just talked about a bunch of teams that were like over 200 for their average win. Ole Miss's average win is 183.3. Like they've played a reasonable schedule, and they're 13-0 heading into conference play. They've moved up to number 61 in the BCI. I think a lot of their computer metrics were baked in from before the season. Like they were so disliked before the season. They're being disrespected. Ole Miss is officially, in my book, being disrespected.
I think they're being disrespected, but I love me some home Rocky Top in SEC play. That is a tough place to go get a win. Like they absolutely sit on you on the defensive end, and that place gets going. And they're in the orange and white pinstripes, and it just gets loud in there.
The orange when they pay into the bench and they're on like a 14-0 run and you haven't scored in 6 minutes, it pops up on the screen and all the guys in the orange pants on the bench are up and cheering. It is a tough spot to be. The stats here, I honestly couldn't tell you much about this Mississippi team. I've not watched them play a single game. I did just defend them as being disrespected, having not seen them play. But Chris Beard's obviously an unbelievable coach, not necessarily a good guy, but a good coach. The stats here, they don't shoot any threes. They want to go inside. When they do shoot the three, they're falling. They're 40% from three, 8th in the country. They want to go inside. That's where the Tennessee defense is going to suffocate you. They're 12th in 2-point defense. On the other side of the ball, the Mississippi defense has actually been pretty good this year. 67th in effective field goal percentage, 75th in 3-point shooting. They surrender a lot of threes. Tennessee shoots a reasonable amount of them. The glass could be a problem here. Tennessee 85th on the glass, Mississippi 281. I know nothing about this Mississippi team. I do know a reasonable amount about this Tennessee team. I think this Tennessee team is legit. They've moved all the way back up to number 5 in the BC after pretty much their only losses came in Maui, and then they lost that tough one in North Carolina on the road. The numbers here, Ole Miss opening at plus 13 scares me. It's like the books know something. They know about Rocky Top down there. So another one where we're going to have to wait and see, and I'm not going to be betting this game.
Yeah, I'll definitely be cheering again. I'm cheering against Ole Miss all the way. That streets are saying that could have been Coach Wade's job if it wasn't Chris Beard. So
Coach Wade would have him undefeated as well. So
yes.
we know that. Let's see what else we got here because we've got plenty to choose from. Nebraska's playing a home game against Wisconsin. Nebraska's been pretty good. They're 12-2. Fred Hoiberg's got the boys playing good basketball. Fred Hoiberg, good coach in college, bad coach in the NBA. They just beat who they just beat. Indiana. Indiana kind of sucks, to be fair.
Not their year.
They're number 100. They're number 100 now in the VCI. Wisconsin took care of business against Iowa. That was a home game. Iowa, Coach Fran, we've talked about him. Not a good year for Iowa.
Not a good year for the Hawkeyes.
They're number 64. But this Wisconsin team's really good. It's number 53 Nebraska. It's number 17 Wisconsin. It's plus 7.5 on Nebraska, minus 7 on Wisconsin. I'm going to look at the stats here in a second. But out of the gates, I would think that Wisconsin's more than 7-point favorites against Nebraska. But to be fair, I also haven't watched a lot of Nebraska basketball.
The Cornhuskers are pesky. They're right on the bubble of a tournament team. Like Fred Hoiberg's doing a good job. It's not exactly a great job in the Big Ten, but Hoiberg's got this is the best Nebraska team that he's had there. Wisconsin on the other end, I don't know if you saw them throw the off the glass alley-oop in transition. That had to have stirred up some feathers of some donors and boosters in the wrong direction. Like that is not the game that Wisconsin basketball has come to love. But yeah, Wisconsin was doing that. Maybe it's Wisconsin's year in the Big Ten if they're willing to start getting a little flashy.
Yeah, that I did not see that. I almost gagged a little bit when you told me, but that just they've got that win over Marquette at home by 11. That's a good win for Wisconsin. The stats actually look pretty good here for Nebraska. The Nebraska defense is solid, and we know what offense isn't where Wisconsin's going to do their thing, but maybe it is now that they're throwing alley-oops off the glass. Another one where I do my best work, I think, when I've watched the teams play and I look at the stats. I can't tell you a damn thing about Nebraska basketball this year. So, unfortunately, another one where we're going to have to sit it out. But just purely, I think Wisconsin's really good. I would expect Wisconsin to cover this spread. And if they don't, that's a sign that this Nebraska team might be legit. Yeah,
do you have what Nebraska is against the spread?
Yeah. Give me just a second here. Nebraska against the spread, 9-5. Fred.
Yeah. They've been overachieving this year. Something to keep an eye on. Could be a good teams win, great teams cover wagon.
Yeah, one definitely to keep an eye on. Entering Big Ten play. Still weird that Nebraska's in the Big Ten, but good for them. Some Mountain West basketball. I know you really always have your eyes on the Mountain West. It's an area of expertise for you. Colorado State traveling to Utah State. Underdogs. Colorado State plus 1.5, traveling to Utah State. Colorado State number 26 in the VCI. Utah State number 44. Utah State's only got one loss. They're 13-1. Most of those coming against quad 3 and quad 4 level teams. But I know you had, was it Colorado State against New Mexico? You had some eyes on that one, or I saw you tweeted something. The offense continues to look crispy. They took care of business in that one. Yeah,
that Colorado State motion offense it's really pretty what they've got going. They always have guys screening well, cutting hard. They're always getting open shots. Isaiah Stevens. No one's really in control of an offense more than him in the country. Interesting that they're a 1.5 point underdog to Utah State. I mean, the Mountain West, especially on the East Coast, you get that 10:30 tip off on FS1. If you're not trying to go to bed, it's perfect. It just takes you right into 1 a.m. in the morning. I don't know a lot about Utah State, but give me the home team.
I'll tell you a little bit about Utah State because, to be fair, I don't know much about them either. Great 3-point defense, 10th in the country in 3-point percentage defense. Probably going to have some problems. They're 234th in 2-point defense. Colorado State's third. Colorado State shooting 62% from 2, and Utah State's giving up 50% from 2-point. And then on the other side of the floor, Utah State 37th in effective field goal percentage. Those are all coming on 2s. They are 10th in 2-point offense, shooting 59%. Colorado State not too strong in that area. Utah State shoots no 3s. They're 314th in 3-point attempts. So it appears Utah State wants to get into the paint. Colorado State not too strong there. I'm going to go purely off of the stats here. I have not watched Utah State play a single possession this year. I have watched Colorado State a little bit. This looks like overball to me. I don't see it. There's no defense in the paint for either of these teams. Get the ball in the paint. Let's score some easy buckets. It's 150.5. Colorado State's been scoring all year long. The pace could be a little bit of a concern. Neither team that puts up a ton of pace out there, but Colorado State scores like 80 points every single game. The Utah State at home, always a good atmosphere there in Logan. So let's get the crowd into it. Let's get some points. Let's get in the paint. Neither team can guard the basket. Easy buckets. Start to get some fouls in there too. Once you're reaching late. So I'm going to take the over 150.5 between Colorado State and Utah State.
I love it.
Just write that one down. Over 150.5. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Texas Tech's playing Texas. Texas are frauds as far as I'm concerned. Somehow they're 35th in the VCI. I'd have them like 60 or 70. Personally, they haven't played anybody. They're not good. Auburn is playing Arkansas. Our Auburn squad favored on the road here against Arkansas. A tough place to play, though, and I'm sure they're going to be rolling deep there at Bud Walton Arena. I know you're a big fan of the atmosphere down there in Fayetteville.
Yeah, keep saying it, but Bud Walton's a tough place to play in the SEC. Like, it's right up there with the Swamp and the Rocky Top. It's a tough place to go and win. Auburn's looked good. Arkansas hasn't looked so good, but I mean, Arkansas catching points at home, it's tempting.
I've got one for you. I've got something that you're going to like a lot. Baylor. They're traveling to Oklahoma State, and they're favored, but only by 5.5 against one of the worst basketball teams I think I've ever seen. Oklahoma State. They've ever since we saw that game, who'd they play? Notre Dame, I think, in that game.
Notre Dame.
We saw
low 50s.
That was a tough watch. They're at home here in this one. Baylor, they've disappointed us in a couple of those big games. We needed better from them against Michigan State and Duke. Unfortunately, they lost both of those ones. But Oklahoma State is not good. Not good at all. With that said, I don't know if Baylor's played any road games. So I'm a little the road. What's the atmosphere? What's your you were the atmosphere guy. What's the atmosphere in an Oklahoma State game?
Easiest place to win a game on the road in the Big 12, Oklahoma State. They don't support the team. Like, they don't sell that place out even against the best teams. They'll have open seats in there, and they're orange, so it just like really sticks out that there aren't butts in the seats. I will say about this Baylor team, they're not defending at all. They're like not even top 75 in the country. I saw a take that Baylor's like good Iowa. Like, they're just going to score in the 85, score 85, give up 83. I've definitely gave out Baylor as a dark horse national title contender. I'm backing off that after seeing them not defend, but man, Oklahoma State is just atrocious. Bryce Thompson, he's good, but yeah, I don't know. I can't unsee what we saw at Barclays.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not actually going to bet this one now that I think about it, because I am looking at the defensive stats for Baylor and they are terrible. So I'm actually out on this one. But Baylor should win this game easily. If you're looking for another bet that's not an official bet from me, Baylor -5 against Oklahoma State. But I'm not going to hang my hat on that one just because they're going on the road. We don't know what to expect for sure. Yeah, there's just a ton of games. If you want to bet college basketball, tomorrow is your day. I'm looking through here, seeing if there's anything else that catches my eye. Let me see here. West Virginia. I'd said I'd considered going to this West Virginia-Houston game, but the spread was going to be too big for me to go. It's at 21-point spread for Houston. Over under what a 21-point spread and 129 over under game. That is a Houston basketball if I've ever seen it before.
Ooh, 70-50.
There, yeah, that is not good at all. Oh, here's one more. We always got to end on a Big East matchup as boots on the ground Big East fans. Marquette traveling to Seton Hall. You were talking about maybe getting a ticket to this one over there in Newark. They're going to play at the Prudential Center. Shout out the New Jersey Devils. Always like when I prefer when Seton Hall plays on campus, but it's fine if they want to go over to the Prudential Center. -5 on Marquette, but you can get a +6.5 on Seton Hall. Seton Hall, I've seen it with my own eyes. I don't think they're a good basketball team, but their results are starting to speak to a team that might actually be good. I don't like to watch them. I don't see it from them, but Shaheen Holloway, he's a good coach. He's got them winning basketball games. They beat Providence on the road, which we know how tough of a game that is. Now, to be fair, Providence was reeling after the injury. They lost to Xavier on the road. They got crushed there, but we know they beat UConn at home at the Prudential. They beat Missouri, who's not very good, but you'll take a win against them. Again, Marquette, they're like 5-point favorites against every team that they're playing in the Big East.
I just faded Seton Hall at Providence and they won outright. So everything about me wants to now jump on them as the home underdogs. If I end up going to the game, I'll take them on principle. I might have to take the PATH train over to New York to get my bet in, since I can't bet on Jersey teams in Jersey City, and then come back over right out to Newark. But yeah, I think the Hall, man, it is not pretty basketball at all.
No, there's a lot of red on the offensive side of the ball. 249th in effective field goal percentage, 301st in 3-point shooting. They turn it over almost every possession. They're 240th in turnovers. Marquette's 27th. On the other side, so yeah, I Seton Hall's going to struggle to score in this one. This Marquette defense is pretty solid. I think we think of Marquette as this like high flying offense when really their defense has been pretty strong this year. They force a lot of turnovers. I think they're going to be stealing the ball. They're going to be going down. Iguodala's going to be dunking it. They've got all sorts of guys who can steal the ball from you, take it the other way. They don't foul. Seton Hall doesn't really get to the line. Seton Hall wants to shoot a ton of twos. They're not going to be able to hit threes, which is an area where obviously Marquette wants to get the three ball up and hit a reasonable amount of those. The rare bad free throw defense from Seton Hall. Almost dead last in the country in free throw defense. Not enough atmosphere there in the Prudential Center to throw teams off from the free throw line. But yeah, one where, again, if Marquette is who we think they are, they win this game. But I'm starting to think that I only bet Marquette when they play at home at the Fiserv, because I think they've won every game they've played there for like the last decade. So on the road, I'd probably lean it.
You won't catch me taking any road favorites in the Big East on principle.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless it's like at DePaul, maybe like at DePaul at Georgetown.
Yeah, near minus like 12 on the road against DePaul or Georgetown. That's fair. But yeah, I think like we said at the beginning of the pod, there's infinite games that you could potentially choose from tomorrow. I'm not going to get out over my skis. We're 42-20, or I'm 42-22 on the bets. I'm just going to bet 5 games. That tends to be the number that we bet on these weekends. Yep. I like what I like. I didn't see anything else that really did it for me. So yeah, Illinois plus 10.5 tonight at Mackey. Let's get the ball to Damask. Let's run some clock. Let's try to keep that one low scoring. North Carolina plus 1.5 against Clemson. I like this North Carolina team. I think this Clemson team the undefeated mirage is behind us. It might be trending in the wrong direction for them. Kansas -8, Allen Fieldhouse against a fraudulent TCU team. Villanova -4.5, taking another swing on the Wildcats, the high risk, high reward team. And then the purely off of the numbers, blind bet, Colorado State, Utah State over 150.5. Those are going to be the 5 games where I'll have action.
5-0, it sounds like.
We can only hope. But yeah, we'll be on the lookout if you get boots on the ground over there for the Seton Hall game. Loads of action tomorrow. Good action tonight. And then you're flying down here on Sunday. You've got to dodge a potential winter storm up there in New York to make your way down here to Houston.
Yeah, fingers crossed we don't get snowed in. Got to get down to the game in Houston. All
right. Well, I'll see you down here on Monday for the final time this year. Go Dogs, because we will not be saying that during basketball season, because Mike Hopkins, I wanted him fired at halftime in the Nevada game. He tried to save his job with a win over Gonzaga. He's now opened conference play at 0-3, including a loss at home to Oregon. We can't be having that. So go Dogs, and I'll see you soon.
Go Dogs.